What unfolds when a dealership manager wrongly judges the man who quietly owns the entire operation? Darryl pulled into the lot of Prestige Motors, the premier dealership he had just purchased in the sunny city of Scottsdale, Arizona. The desert air rippled above the luxurious cars lined up at the front, their polished exteriors shimmering in the bright afternoon light. He parked his modest SUV in an unmarked space toward the rear and stepped out, pausing for a moment to observe the building's sleek exterior. He wasn't dressed to attract attention, in fact, quite the opposite. A plain grey hoodie, slightly worn jeans, and a pair of sneakers made up his outfit for the day. This casual look was intentional. Darryl wanted to witness how things truly ran when no one suspected the new owner was watching. As he made his way to the entrance, he spotted a few employees chatting casually by the front counter. The murmur of relaxed conversation and occasional laughter drifted through the glass doors. Darryl entered. Inside, the cool, air-conditioned showroom stood in stark contrast to the blazing heat outside. The scent of leather seats and freshly applied wax filled the space. Rows of gleaming luxury vehicles sparkled under overhead lights. Conversations tapered off the moment he walked in. He noticed fleeting glances, quick looks at his hoodie and sneakers. There was a noticeable shift in atmosphere, subtle yet telling. But Darryl wasn't here to jump to conclusions. He came to observe. That's when she appeared. Susan. A middle-aged woman with sharp features and an even sharper presence. Her fitted blazer and polished heels radiated authority, while a clipboard tucked under her arm gave her the air of precision and order. She approached with determination, the sound of her heels clicking crisply against the floor. Her smile looked courteous at first glance, but Darryl immediately picked up on the slight tension behind it. "Excuse me," she said, her tone brisk and cool. "Can I assist you with something?" Darryl offered a calm smile. "Just browsing," he replied casually, nodding toward the line of vehicles. Susan's eyes gave him a once-over, her pleasant expression faltering just a bit. "Are you looking to buy?" she asked, a faint tone of doubt creeping into her voice. "Something like that," Darryl said, still smiling. Her lips tightened. "Well, our inventory is quite exclusive. Most of our vehicles require pre-approval." I might be able to suggest. Before she could finish, someone from across the room called, "Hey Susan, the delivery guy's here." Her attention briefly shifted, but she quickly refocused on Darryl, as if to make sure he didn't move too far. Darryl lifted an eyebrow, but kept his tone light. "You assuming I wouldn't qualify?" The question momentarily threw her off, but she recovered with practiced composure. Her stance became more rigid. "Just trying to save you time," she replied with a tight smile. "These cars start in the six-figure range. I might be able to direct you elsewhere." Darryl didn't flinch. Her choice of words registered, but his expression stayed relaxed. The underlying insult didn't go unnoticed. Silence settled over them for a beat. Then, Darryl turned his attention to a nearby car, a sleek silver coupe with a bold design. He lightly touched the door handle and glanced back. "Nice ride," he said. Susan's brows creased just slightly, though she managed another strained smile. "It is? Perhaps when you're serious about buying, we can set an appointment. For now, please don't touch the vehicles." Darryl took a step back from the car. He gave a single nod, hands in his pockets. "All right," he said. "So tell me, what would you recommend for someone like me?" Susan blinked, momentarily taken aback by the direct question. Before she could reply, Darryl added, "If you think you know what I'm after, I'm listening." Her carefully maintained expression cracked, revealing a hint of frustration. "Maybe something more in line with a tighter budget," she said. "I can point you to a dealership that specializes in used cars." Darryl's faint smile didn't reach his eyes. He had seen enough. "That's quite the assumption," he said softly. The words hung between them, and for a second, Susan hesitated. But she soon gathered herself and straightened. "I'll be back with some options," she said, walking away quickly. Darryl watched her go, his face unreadable. He looked back at the silver coupe, his reflection visible in its glossy finish. This was shaping up to be a very revealing day. He stood quietly in the center of the showroom, hands in his pockets, his eyes scanning the impressive car lineup. He didn't make hasty judgments, but Susan's dismissive behavior was difficult to overlook. The staff resumed their conversations, though he could feel their occasional, curious glances. The silent judgments. The coded skepticism. He knew them all too well. Susan returned a minute later, gripping the clipboard like armor. Her walk was brisk, her smile practiced but tight. "All right," she said, stopping a few steps in front of him. "I've gathered a few options that might suit your situation." "My situation?" Darryl echoed, tilting his head. "Yes," Susan answered firmly, handing him a printout of used cars. Each listing included specs and prices significantly below the dealership's usual stock. "These are more affordable. Reliable. Practical," she added. Darryl took the paper without comment, his eyes scanning the listings. An old sedan, a second-hand SUV, a small hybrid. He let out the faintest smirk, but quickly masked it, folding the list and slipping it into his pocket. "Thanks for the suggestions," he said evenly. Susan seemed caught off guard by his calm reaction, but quickly shifted back into her professional posture, placing her hands on her hips. "Look," she said, her voice lowering, "I'm just being realistic with you. Prestige Motors isn't for everyone. I'm trying not to waste your time." Darryl met her eyes, his calm gaze unwavering. "And what makes you so sure I'm not the kind of customer you're looking for?" Susan paused, but only briefly. "I've been in this business a long time," she said. "It's easy to tell when someone's out of their element." "Out of their element?" Darryl echoed, his voice steady, almost contemplative. "That's interesting." There was a flicker of hesitation in Susan's eyes, but she continued. "I'm just being straightforward. It's better to be honest from the start than have someone walk away disappointed." Darryl let out a soft laugh and shook his head slightly. "Honest, huh? I respect that. In that case, how about this, you let me talk to the owner? Think you can arrange that?" Susan's eyebrows shot up. For the first time, she appeared genuinely surprised. "The owner?" "That's right," Darryl said, his tone relaxed, almost friendly. "I'd like a quick word with them." Susan gave a strained smile that barely passed for polite. "That won't be possible today. The owner doesn't just stop by for casual visits, they've got a packed schedule." "I'm sure they do," Darryl said with a small nod. "Still, maybe give them a call. Let them know I'm here. I have a feeling they'd want to see me." Susan's smile thinned, her patience clearly wearing thin. "Look, sir, I'm trying to be courteous, but this is getting a bit much. I have other guests to help. If you're seriously considering a vehicle, I can arrange a consultation with one of our advisors. Otherwise, Darryl said, his tone still calm, but now carrying a subtle firmness. Susan narrowed her eyes, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Otherwise, I'll have to ask you to leave." The words hung heavy in the space between them. Darryl didn't budge. He held her gaze for a moment, and the whole showroom seemed to pause. Then, slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "All right," he said, scrolling through his contacts. "I'll make the call myself." Susan blinked, her forehead creasing. "What are you doing?" "Calling the owner," Darryl replied, raising the phone to his ear. "Shouldn't take long." Her confidence faltered, replaced by confusion. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Around them, a few employees stopped what they were doing, drawn in by the unfolding drama. Daryl held up a finger as if to say hold on, then turned away slightly and spoke into the phone. Hey, it's me. I'm at the dealership. Everything's fine, just a bit of a mix-up. Mind letting them know I'm here? He ended the call and slid the phone back into his pocket, turning to Susan again. They'll be here shortly, he said, matter of fact. Susan stared at him, her mouth slightly ajar. Who did you just call? Daryl didn't respond right away. Instead, he scanned the room, eyes resting briefly on the watching staff. Guess we'll find out, he said with a playful edge. Tension blanketed the room like fog. Susan shifted uncomfortably, her mask of confidence beginning to slip. She fiddled with her clipboard, her actions mechanical and uneasy. Daryl, on the other hand, stood calmly beside one of the high-end SUVs, his relaxed posture only amplifying the pressure in the room. Employees whispered quietly to each other, stealing glances, as they awaited the arrival of someone important. The showroom doors finally opened, breaking the silence. A sharply dressed man in a tailored navy suit walked in, his polished shoes tapping softly against the tile. His face was serious but warm, and his eyes immediately found Daryl. Mr. Carter, the man said with a broad smile, reaching out as he approached. Always a pleasure. Daryl returned the handshake with a steady grip and a faint smile. Thanks for coming, Alex. I appreciate it. The energy in the room shifted. The staff tensed. Susan's clipboard nearly slipped from her hands as she looked between Daryl and Alex, her confusion giving way to dawning realization. Wait. Mr. Carter. She echoed, her voice suddenly unsure. Alex turned to her, his friendly expression giving way to something more formal. Looks like you've already met Mr. Carter. Susan blinked rapidly, her mouth opening and closing as she searched for words. I didn't realize. You didn't realize he's the new owner of this location, Alex finished for her, his tone sharp. Then he turned back to Daryl with an apologetic glance. I assume this wasn't the welcome you expected. Daryl raised a hand to stop him. It's fine, Alex. I think Susan and I just got off on the wrong foot. His voice was composed, but his words carried weight. The entire room listened intently. Susan's face drained of color. She took a step back, gripping her clipboard tightly as if it were an anchor. I'm so sorry, she said softly. I didn't know. You didn't know what? Daryl asked, his tone still measured but firm. That someone like me could own a place like this. That I might actually belong here. Her eyes widened, panic flickering across her face. I didn't mean, Daryl held up a hand, stopping her. It's fine, Susan. Really? He took a small step forward, his voice lowering just enough to draw in the entire room. But let me ask you something. If I hadn't been the owner, would you have treated me any differently? Would I have gotten the same respect as someone walking in here wearing a designer suit? Susan opened her mouth, but no answer came. The silence that followed was louder than any response. Daryl nodded, as if her lack of words was response enough. Then he turned to Alex, his voice carrying new authority. Let's bring everyone into the conference room. I think it's time we had a conversation about how this place is being run. In the glass-walled conference room, tension thickened the air. Sleek and modern, the space was designed to impress, but today, it felt more like a pressure chamber. Susan sat near the back, her usual confident posture replaced with nervous stillness. Daryl stood at the head of the table, calm and composed, commanding the full attention of everyone present. Alex remained by the entrance, his arms folded, his face unreadable, as he watched the team take their places. The quiet chatter faded into silence as Daryl cleared his throat, his eyes moving across the room. Thanks for being here on such short notice, Daryl began, his voice calm but commanding. For those who haven't met me yet, I'm Daryl Carter, and as of last month, I became the new owner of Prestige Motors. A soft wave of surprise moved through the room. Some employees reacted with curiosity, others with unease. Susan sank into her chair slightly, avoiding Daryl's gaze. I came here today dressed down on purpose, Daryl continued, his tone even. I wanted to observe how things really work here when no one knows I'm the owner. I wanted to understand what a typical customer might experience walking in. He paused, letting the message settle before adding, what I witnessed today was disappointing. I wasn't evaluated based on my potential, but rather on my appearance. I'm not here to call anyone out by name, but this speaks volumes about the culture we've got here. Susan shifted uncomfortably, her face warm with embarrassment. Daryl glanced at her briefly, then addressed the room again. This goes beyond just me, he said. It's about every person who walks through our doors. Every guest who might not match someone's idea of what a luxury buyer looks like. One of the younger team members raised his hand cautiously. Daryl gave him a nod. Mr. Carter, the man began, hesitant, most of us do try to treat people well, but sometimes, well, we make assumptions without realizing it. Daryl gave a thoughtful nod. I hear you, he said. We all carry some form of bias, even when we don't mean to. But trying isn't enough. We need to make an active effort to challenge those biases. This has to be a place where every person feels valued, regardless of their looks, background, or anything else. He paused again before continuing, this dealership is known for excellence. But true excellence isn't just about the cars, it's about how we treat people. From now on, that excellence will be rooted in respect, inclusion, and fairness. A few staff members nodded in agreement. Some still looked unsure. Daryl's eyes found Susan, who sat still with her hands folded tightly in her lap. Susan, he said, gently but firmly, I'd like to give you the chance to say something, if you'd like. All eyes turned to her. She hesitated, then finally spoke, her voice barely audible. I made a mistake, she said, clearly flustered. I misjudged you. And I'm truly sorry. Daryl gave a slight nod, his face unreadable. Thank you for saying that, he said. Let's hope this becomes a reminder for all of us, because real change starts with accountability. Turning back to the room, he continued, we'll be launching new training programs to make sure this dealership reflects the values I believe in. Every customer deserves to be treated with dignity, no exceptions. If anyone has a problem with that, now's the time to speak. The room was quiet. The silence, broken only by the soft hum of the air conditioning, made the weight of his words all the more powerful. After a long pause, Daryl spoke again, good. I'm glad we all agree. Change is never easy, but it's necessary, and we are going to be the example. He leaned slightly against the table, his hands resting lightly on its surface. Let me be clear, I didn't come here today to embarrass anyone. I came to learn about the culture I've inherited, and how we can improve it. He looked again at Susan, his tone soft but firm. You're a seasoned manager, and I know you've worked hard to get where you are. But today was a wake-up call, for you, and the rest of us. Susan lifted her eyes to his for the first time. I understand, she said quietly, but sincerely. I was wrong. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Daryl nodded. I believe in giving people a second chance, he replied. But first, we hold ourselves accountable. I'll be sitting down with you soon to go over next steps. For now, let's focus on moving forward. He addressed the entire group again. This isn't just about selling high-end vehicles. It's about earning trust, building relationships, and setting a high standard. If you're committed to that, I'm here to support you all the way. This time, a stronger wave of agreement moved through the room. The tension eased. Even Alex, still standing near the door, gave a subtle nod of approval. Darryl smiled, a quiet, confident smile that held both relief and purpose. "All right then," he said, "let's get back to work. And remember, how we treat people will always matter more than what we are selling." As the team filed out, Susan lingered near the door. She walked up to Darryl hesitantly, her fingers twisting nervously. "Mr. Carter," she began, her voice low, "I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to make this right. I won't let you down." Darryl looked at her for a long moment before replying. "I hope that's true, Susan. Actions mean more than words. But I believe people can change, if they are willing to." She gave a small, determined nod. "I am." Darryl watched her leave, then turned to Alex. "Let's arrange a team meeting for next week," he said. "I want everyone clear on what's expected from here on out." Alex smiled, admiration clear on his face. "You got it, boss." As Darryl stepped back into the main showroom, he glanced around at the lineup of cars, their polished bodies shining under the afternoon sun. He knew there was a lot of work ahead, but for the first time that day, he felt hopeful. Because this wasn't just about running a business. It was about transforming a space into something greater, where people were judged not by appearances, but by their character. And Darryl was ready to lead the charge.